Admiral Jaewook stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion and smiled. The massive ship stretched 15 kilometers from nose to tail. Its dark metal hull was covered in weapon ports and shield generators. This was the pride of the Kreth Empire, and Jaewook was its master. The bridge was huge, with dozens of crew members working at their stations. The walls were made of polished black stone, and red lights cast long shadows across the room. At the center sat Jaewook's command chair, raised above everything else so he could see all of his domain. "Report," Jaewook said in his deep voice. Commander Hyjin walked up to him. She was tall and thin, with the pale blue skin that all Kreth were born with. Her uniform was crisp and clean, decorated with medals from 100 victories. "Admiral, the 7th Fleet is ready for the next phase," she said. 200 ships await your command," Jaewook nodded. The 7th Fleet was just a small part of the Kreth military machine. The Empire had over 50,000 warships spread across the galaxy. Each one could destroy entire planets if needed. For 3,000 years, the Kreth had ruled over every star system that mattered. "Show me the target," Jaewook ordered. The main screen lit up with a star map. A small yellow star appeared in the center, with several planets circling around it. Words appeared on the screen. "Sol system, recently discovered primitive species, humans." Lieutenant Biora turned from her station. She was younger than the others, with bright eyes that showed she was eager to prove herself. "Admiral, our scouts report that the humans have only just learned to travel between stars. Their ships are small and slow. Their weapons are basic," Jaewook laughed. It was a cold sound that echoed through the bridge. "Another primitive species thinks they can challenge the Empire. How many times have we heard this before?" The crew laughed with him. They had conquered so many worlds that they had lost count. Humans would be just another name on a very long list. "Tell me about their military," Jaewook said. Hyjin pulled up more data on the screen. Pictures of human ships appeared. They were tiny compared to Kreth vessels, maybe a few hundred meters long at most. Their hulls looked rough and simple. "Intelligence reports show they have maybe 1,000 ships total." Hyjin said most are cargo vessels or small patrol craft. "They have no weapons that could threaten even our smallest destroyer." "Their largest ship is called a battleship," Biora added. "It is only 500 meters long. Our fighters are bigger than that." Jaewook walked to the front of the bridge and looked out at the stars. Space was filled with Kreth warships as far as the eye could see. Each one was a masterpiece of destruction. Their plasma cannons could melt mountains. Their missiles could crack continents. Their shields could stop anything the galaxy could throw at them. "What do we know about the humans themselves?" he asked. "They are a young species," Hyjin replied. "Carbon-based, like many others we have conquered. They breathe oxygen and water. They seem to live on only one world in their system. Earth, they call it. Population?" Jaewook asked. "About 10 billion. Biora said that is actually quite large for a single planet. Jaewook shrugged. Numbers meant nothing when faced with Kreth power. They had wiped out species with 100 billion members before. "Their technology is primitive," Hyjin continued. "They still use chemical rockets for some of their ships. Their computers are slow. They have no energy shields at all." "No shields?" Jaewook asked with surprise. "None, Admiral. They rely on thick metal armor like the ancient peoples used to do." The bridge crew laughed again. "Fighting without energy. Shields was like going to war with stone tools." "Have they responded to our messages?" Jaewook asked. 3 days ago, the Kreth had sent a standard message to the human homeworld. It was the same message they sent to all new species they discovered. "Surrender now and become part of the Empire, or be destroyed completely." "They sent a reply yesterday," Hyjin said. "They refuse to surrender. They say they want to talk and find a peaceful solution." "Peaceful solution," Jaewook repeated slowly. "They still do not understand who they are dealing with." He walked back to his command chair and sat down. The leather was soft and comfortable. It was made from the hide of some creature from a world the Kreth had conquered long ago. Jae-wook could not even remember its name anymore. "Admiral," said Captain Taemin from the communications station. "We are receiving a transmission from Kreth High Command." "Put it through," Jae-wook ordered. The main screen changed to show the face of Supreme Admiral Kyung-ho. He was ancient, even by Kreth standards. His blue skin was pale and wrinkled, but his eyes were still sharp and cold. He had led the Empire's military for over 200 years. "Admiral Jae-wook," the Supreme Admiral said, "you have your orders." "Yes, Supreme Admiral." "The Seventh Fleet stands ready?" "These humans interest me," Kyung-ho said. "Intelligence reports suggest they have spread to several worlds in their system very quickly. They build things fast. They learn fast. This could make them useful slaves." "Understood, sir. We will capture as many as possible. But do not take chances," Kyung-ho warned. "If they resist too strongly, destroy them all. The Empire has no need for heroes or rebels." "It will be done, Supreme Admiral," the transmission ended. Jae-wook looked around his bridge at his crew. These were the best officers in the Kreth military. They had served with him for years. Together, they had brought a dozen worlds under Empire control. "Set course for the Sol system," he ordered. "Maximum speed." "Course laid in," reported the navigation officer. "Engage." The Eternal Dominion began to move. Around it, 200 other Kreth warships did the same. The Seventh Fleet was on the hunt again. As they traveled through space, Jae-wook thought about the coming battle. It would not really be a battle at all. The humans had no idea what was coming for them. Their primitive ships would be swept aside like dust before a storm. "How long until we reach their system?" he asked. 18 hours at current speed," came the reply. Jae-wook smiled again. In 18 hours, the human species would learn what it meant to face the might of the Kreth Empire. They would kneel or they would die. There was no third choice. The fleet moved through the darkness of space, carrying with it the power to end worlds. Behind them, the Kreth Empire continued its business as usual. The conquest of humanity was just another day's work, but something waited for them in the Sol system. Something the Kreth Empire had never encountered before. Something that would change everything in ways they could never imagine. The countdown to humanity's test had begun. Captain Taeho stood on the small bridge of the New Sol and watched the enemy fleet approach. His ship was tiny compared to the massive alien vessels that surrounded them. The human exploration ship was only 300 meters long, built for research and peaceful contact with other species. "Captain," said Lieutenant Sujin from her station, "I count 200 alien ships. The largest one is 15 kilometers long." Taeho nodded calmly. He was a thin man with gray hair and kind eyes. He had spent 20 years exploring space for Earth, always hoping to find friendly neighbors among the stars. Today, it seemed like that hope was gone. "Any response to our peace messages?" he asked. "Nothing, sir," replied Communications Officer Jin-woo. "They are jamming most of our signals, but they let one message through." "Put it on screen." The main display showed the face of an alien creature. Its skin was pale blue, and its eyes were cold and dark. When it spoke, its voice was deep and threatening. "Human vessel, this is Admiral Jae-wook of the Kreth Empire. You will surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded. Your species has been selected for conquest. Resistance will result in your complete destruction." The message ended. The bridge of the New Sol was quiet for a long moment. "Well," Taeho said softly, "that could have gone better." Ensign Dong Hyen turned from his station. He was young and scared, but trying not to show it. "Captain, what do we do? We cannot fight all those ships." Taeho looked out at the alien fleet. Each of their ships bristled with weapons. Energy shields glowed around their hulls. They looked like they could destroy planets without breaking a sweat. "Send a message to the alien admiral," Taeho ordered. "Tell him we would like to discuss terms." Jin-woo worked at his console. A few minutes later, the alien appeared on screen again. "Admiral Jae-wook," Taeho said with a polite bow. "I am Captain Taeho of the Earthship New Sol. We come in peace." "Perhaps we can find a way to avoid conflict," the alien laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. There will be no negotiation, human. Your species is weak and primitive. You will serve the Empire, or you will die. Choose now. I am afraid we must decline your generous offer, Teho said calmly. The alien's face showed surprise and anger. You decline? Do you not see my fleet? Do you not understand your situation? I understand perfectly, Teho replied. You have come to our space with weapons drawn and threats ready. You demand our surrender without cause. This is not the behavior of a civilized species. Admiral Jaywook's image on the screen grew larger as he leaned forward. Civilized? You dare lecture me about civilization? The Kreth Empire has ruled this galaxy for 3,000 years. We are civilization. Then perhaps, Teho said quietly, it is time for a change. The transmission ended. The alien had cut the signal. Captain, Sujin said urgently. All enemy. Ships are powering weapons. They are preparing to fire. Teho nodded. He had expected this. He walked to his command chair and pressed a red button hidden underneath the armrest. Emergency transmission sent, he said to his crew. Earth defense. Command now knows our location and the threat we face. What good will that do? Asked Dong Hyan. Help cannot reach us in time. Teho smiled. It was a sad smile, but there was something else in it too. Something that looked almost like hope. Perhaps not, he said. But Earth's children are never as helpless as they appear. On the alien flagship, Admiral Jaywook was giving orders to his fleet. Target the human ship, he commanded. One plasma blast should be enough to destroy it. We will make an example of these fools. Commander Haijin looked worried. Admiral, should we not capture them first? High Command wanted prisoners. High Command will understand, Jaywook replied. Sometimes lessons must be taught in blood. The Eternal Dominion turned its massive weapons toward the tiny human ship. The other Kreth vessels did the same. 200 of the most powerful warships in the galaxy prepared to destroy one small exploration vessel. Fire on my command, Jaywook ordered. But before he could give the final order, Lieutenant Beora called out from her station. Admiral! Long range. Sensors are detecting a new contact. Single ship, approaching fast. How fast? Haijin asked. Beora checked her readings twice. Impossible speeds, Commander. The computer says it should not be possible to travel that fast in normal space. Jaywook frowned. Show me. The main screen changed to display a tactical view of the area. The Kreth fleet appeared as red dots, with the human ship as a small blue dot in the center. At the edge of the display, a new contact was approaching. It was moving so fast that the sensors could barely track it. What kind of ship moves like that? Haijin wondered aloud. Maybe their computers are wrong, Beora suggested. The readings make no sense. The new contact suddenly slowed down and dropped out of hyperspace. It appeared on their screens as a single ship, much smaller than any Kreth vessel but larger than the first human ship. Size? Jaywook demanded. 800 meters, Admiral. Much larger than the first human vessel, but still tiny compared to our ships. Jaywook laughed. Another human ship? Do they think one more vessel will make a difference? Admiral, the communications officer reported. The new ship is transmitting a message. Put it through. A new face appeared on the screen. This human looked different from the first captain. He was younger, with sharp eyes and a stern expression. When he spoke, his voice was calm but carried a threat that made even the Kreth Bridge crew feel uneasy. This is Captain Minho of the UES Vengeance. You have entered human space with hostile intent and threatened a peaceful vessel. You have 60 seconds to withdraw from this system or face the consequences. The Kreth Bridge fell silent for a moment, then Jaywook began to laugh again, louder than before. Soon his entire crew was laughing with him. Did you hear that? Jaywook said between laughs. One tiny ship is threatening our entire fleet. The humans must be insane. He stood up from his command chair and walked toward the screen. Human captain. He said, I am Admiral Jaywook, commander of 200 Kreth warships. Each of my vessels could destroy your ship with a single shot. You are outnumbered 200 to 1. I suggest you surrender now before I lose my patience. Captain Minho's expression did not change. 55 seconds, he said calmly. This is madness, Hyjin whispered. Do they have some kind of secret weapon? Jae-wook shook his head. Impossible. Our intelligence reports show that humans have no advanced technology. They are primitives with delusions of grandeur. 30 seconds, came the voice from the human ship. Admiral, Bora said nervously. I am reading some very strange energy signatures from that ship. The power output is beyond anything in our databases. Sensors must be damaged, Jae-wook said dismissively. A ship that small cannot generate significant power. 10 seconds, Captain Minho announced. Jae-wook smiled coldly. Let us teach these humans a lesson they will never forget. All ships, target the new arrival, prepare to fire. Time's up, the human captain said quietly, and then everything changed. The moment Captain Minho said, "Time's up," something impossible happened. Lieutenant Bora stared at her sensor display and rubbed her eyes. The readings could not be real. The small human ship, the one called Vengeance, was showing power levels that broke every law of physics she knew. "Admiral," she called out, her voice shaking slightly. "The human ship is doing something to space around it. Reality itself is bending near their vessel." Admiral Jae-wook turned to look at her. "What are you talking about? Speak clearly." "I cannot explain it, sir. The space around their ship is not behaving normally. It is like they are pulling energy from somewhere else, somewhere we cannot see." Commander Hyjin moved to Biora's station and looked at the readings herself. Her face went pale. "These numbers cannot be correct. No ship that small could generate this much power." "Run a full diagnostic on all sensors," Jae-wook ordered. "The equipment must be damaged." While the Kreth tried to understand what they were seeing, Captain Minho was giving orders on the bridge of the Vengeance. "Sang-woo, bring us to combat readiness," he said to his pilot. Pilot Sang-woo was a young man with steady hands and quick reflexes. He had trained his entire life for this moment. "Combat systems online, Captain. All weapons charged and ready." "In. How are the engines?" Minho asked. Engineer checked her displays. She was the best engineer in the human fleet, able to make their advanced systems work in ways that seemed like magic. "Running at optimal efficiency, Captain. We can maintain maximum power for as long as needed." "Good," Minho said. He looked out at the Kreth fleet surrounding them. 200 massive warships, each one built to destroy worlds. To most people, this would seem like certain death. But Minho was not most people, and the Vengeance was not most ships. "Captain," said Communications Officer Ji-hoon, "the alien admiral is trying to contact us again. Put him through." Admiral Jae-wook's face appeared on the screen. He looked angry and confused. "Human, what kind of trick is this?" "My sensors show impossible readings from your ship." "No trick, Admiral," Minho replied calmly. "Just technology you do not understand. Impossible. Our intelligence reports show that humans are primitives. You have no advanced weapons or defenses." Minho smiled, but it was not a warm smile. "Your intelligence reports are wrong about many things. On the Kreth flagship," Bora was getting more worried by the minute. "Admiral, I am detecting massive energy buildups inside the human ship. Whatever they are planning to do, they are almost ready to do it." "Let them try," Jae-wook said. 200 ships against one. "The outcome is certain," but Hyjin was not so sure. She had spent her career studying alien technologies and ship designs. The human vessel looked unlike anything she had ever seen. Its hull was smooth and black, with no visible weapons or shield generators. Yet her sensors insisted it was more powerful than their entire fleet combined. "Admiral," she said quietly, "perhaps we should be more careful. We know nothing about this ship or what it can do." "Careful?" Jae-wook laughed. "Commander, you sound like you are afraid of one small human ship." "Maybe I am," Hyjin admitted, on the Vengeance. Captain Minho was receiving a message from the other human ship, the New Soul. "Captain Minho," came Captain Taeho's voice. "Thank you for coming. But you cannot fight all these ships alone. You should retreat while you can. With respect, Captain Tejo, Minho replied. The Vengeance was built for exactly this situation. We will not retreat. But there are so many of them, Tejo said. Numbers do not always matter, Minho answered. Sometimes having the right tool for the job is more important than having many tools. He closed the communication channel and turned to his crew. These were the best officers humanity had to offer. They had trained in secret for years, preparing for the day when Earth would face a threat too big for normal weapons to handle. All stations, prepare for combat, Minho ordered. Weapons ready, reported Weapons Officer Hyun-soo. He was a calm man who never seemed to get excited, even in the most dangerous situations. Navigation ready, said Sang-woo. Engineering ready, said Da-yoon. Communications ready, said G-Hoon. Minho nodded. Remember, everyone, we are not just fighting for ourselves today. We are fighting for every human who has ever lived and every human who will ever be born. The aliens think we are weak and primitive. Let us show them how wrong they are. The crew of the Vengeance smiled. They had been waiting for this moment. Their entire lives. On the Kreth flagship, Admiral Jae-wook was running out of patience. Enough of this, he declared. All ships, prepare to fire. We will vaporize this arrogant human and move on to conquering their homeworld. Admiral, Burra said urgently. Energy readings from the human ship are spiking even higher. Whatever they are doing, they are about to do it. I do not care what they are doing, Jae-wook snapped. Fire all weapons. 200 Kreth warships. Open fire at the same moment. Plasma bolts, energy beams, and missiles filled the space around the Vengeance. It was enough firepower to destroy a small moon, but something strange happened. Instead of being destroyed, the human ship seemed to flicker and disappear for just a moment. When it reappeared, it was in a completely different location, and all the Kreth weapons had missed. What just happened? Hyjin demanded. I do not know, Burra replied, staring at her instruments in confusion. For a moment, the ship was not there, then it was somewhere else. It moved faster than our computers could track. Impossible, Jae-wook said. Fire again. The Kreth fleet fired a second volley. Again, the human ship vanished and reappeared somewhere else, completely unharmed. Admiral, Burra said, her voice now full of fear, I think they are moving between dimensions. They are not just traveling through normal space. Between dimensions? Jae-wook repeated. That is science fiction nonsense. But even as he said it, he could see that something was very wrong. The human ship was moving in ways that should not be possible. It appeared and disappeared like a ghost, always staying just ahead of their weapons. Captain Minho spoke again from his ship. Admiral Jae-wook, you have had your chance to withdraw peacefully. You chose violence instead. Now you will learn why that was a mistake. What can one ship do against my entire fleet? Jae-wook shouted. You are about to find out, Minho replied quietly. The Vengeance stopped moving. It hung in space, motionless, surrounded by 200 enemy ships. For a moment, everything was quiet. Then Captain Minho gave a single, simple order, weapons free. What happened next would be remembered across the galaxy for 1,000 years. The Kreth Empire, which had ruled through fear and violence for 3 millennia, was about to learn that there were things in the universe far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. The age of human warfare was about to begin. The first weapon that fired from the Vengeance did not look like anything the Kreth had ever seen before. There was no bright energy beam or explosive missile. Instead, space itself seemed to twist and bend around one of their ships. Captain Woo Jin of the Kreth destroyer Iron Fist was the first to die. He had just enough time to see his ship's hull start to crumple inward before the gravitational lance crushed his vessel like an empty can. The Iron Fist, which had destroyed a dozen worlds in its career, was reduced to a ball of twisted metal. In less than 3 seconds, what was that? Admiral Jae-wook shouted on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion. Lieutenant Biora stared at her sensors in horror. I think they used gravity as a weapon, Admiral. They made space itself crush that ship. Impossible, Jae-wook said, but his voice was not as confident as before. The Vengeance fired again. This time, a different weapon, a beam of pure energy, struck the cruiser Dark Victory. But instead of burning through the hull or exploding, something much worse happened. The ship simply began to dissolve. Molecule by molecule, the Dark Victory came apart at the atomic level, its crew screaming as they were torn apart by forces they could not understand. "Quantum disruptor," Engineer Dian said calmly from her station on the Vengeance. "Direct. Hit. Target eliminated." Captain Minho nodded. "Continue firing, all weapons, all targets." The human ship began to move again, but not like any ship the Kreth had ever seen. Pilot Sang-woo engaged the dimensional drive, and the Vengeance started to flicker in and out of reality. One moment it was in front of the Kreth fleet, the next it was behind them, then above them, then somewhere that sensors could not even detect. "Where is it?" Hyjin demanded. "How can we fight something we cannot see?" Her answer came in the form of another impossible weapon. A missile that seemed to exist in several dimensions at once struck the battleship Crimson Throne. The weapon did not destroy the ship with explosives or energy. Instead, it aged the vessel rapidly, causing 3,000 years to pass in just a few seconds. The Crimson Throne crumbled to dust as its metal became too old and weak to hold together. "Temporal missile," Weapons Officer Hyun-soo reported from the Vengeance. "Target aged to destruction. Continuing attack pattern." Admiral Jae-wook watched in growing terror as his fleet began to die around him. These were not normal weapons. They were technologies that went beyond anything the Kreth Empire had ever imagined. "All ships, concentrate fire on the human vessel," he ordered. "Use everything we have." The remaining Kreth ships tried to focus their attacks, but the Vengeance was too fast and too unpredictable. It appeared and disappeared like a ghost, striking without warning and vanishing before the Kreth could respond. Another weapon fired from the human ship. This one looked like a simple energy beam, but when it struck the dreadnought Eternal Might, the massive vessel simply stopped existing. Not destroyed, not exploded, but erased from reality as if it had never been built. "Reality eraser," Dayan reported. "The target has been removed from this dimension entirely." Captain Minho watched the battle through the Vengeance's advanced sensors. The Kreth fleet was powerful, but they were fighting with technology that was thousands of years behind human science. It was like watching ancient warriors with bronze swords trying to fight modern soldiers with energy weapons. "Sang-woo, bring us around for another attack run," he ordered. "Yes, Captain," the pilot replied. He twisted the ship through dimensions that the Kreth could not even detect. Appearing behind a group of enemy cruisers, the Vengeance fired multiple weapons at once. Gravitational lances crushed 3 ships simultaneously. Quantum disruptors dissolved 2 more. A temporal bomb aged an entire squadron of destroyers into scrap metal on the Kreth flagship. Panic was starting to spread through the crew. "Admiral," Thora said, her voice shaking, "we have lost over 60 ships in the first 2 minutes. At this rate, the entire fleet will be gone in less than 4 minutes." "That cannot be possible," Jae-wook said, but he could see the truth on his displays. Red lights were disappearing one by one as his ships died around him. "Their weapons are beyond our understanding," Hyjin said. "We need to retreat while we still can." "Retreat?" Jae-wook roared. "The Kreth Empire does not retreat. We are the masters of this galaxy." "Not anymore," came a quiet voice. Everyone on the bridge turned to see who had spoken. It was Communications Officer Jin Wo, and he was staring at his displays with wide eyes. "Sir," he said, "I am receiving reports from across the galaxy. Similar human ships have appeared at dozens of our worlds. They are all doing the same thing this one is doing." "What do you mean?" Jae-wook demanded. "They are destroying our fleets, Admiral, everywhere at once." The humans were not unprepared. They were waiting for us. The Vengeance appeared directly in front of the Eternal Dominion. For a moment, the 2 ships faced each other across empty space. The Kreth flagship was 50 times larger than the human vessel, but everyone on the bridge knew which ship was more dangerous. Captain Minho's voice came over the communication system. "Admiral Jae-wook, you now have 100 ships left out of 200. You have seen what our weapons can do." This is your final chance to surrender. Never, Jaewook screamed. All remaining ships, ramming speed? If we cannot destroy them with weapons, we will crush them with our hulls. The surviving Kreth vessels began to accelerate toward the Vengeance. It was a desperate move, born of panic and rage. Captain Minho sighed. They chose poorly, sang-woo, evasive maneuvers. Hyun-soo, prepare the area denial system. Area denial. System online. The weapons officer reported. The Vengeance flickered out of normal space just as the Kreth ships reached its position. The enemy vessels crashed into each other, their hulls crumpling from the impact. When the human ship reappeared, it was surrounded by a field of twisted space-time. Any Kreth vessel that came too close was either crushed by gravity, dissolved by quantum forces, or aged to dust by temporal fields. This is not a battle, Hyjin whispered. This is an execution. She was right. The Vengeance moved through the remaining Kreth ships like a predator among prey. Each weapon it fired was perfectly aimed, each shot carefully calculated for maximum effect. There was no waste, no missed shots, no hesitation. Captain Minho watched his tactical display as the red dots representing enemy ships disappeared one by one. His crew worked with quiet efficiency, each officer performing their duties with deadly precision. How are our power levels? He asked. Still at maximum, Captain, the engineer replied. We are barely using 10% of our total capacity. Good. Continue the engagement. On the Eternal Dominion, Admiral Jaewook finally understood the truth. The Kreth Empire had ruled the galaxy through superior technology and overwhelming force. Now they faced a species with technology so advanced that it made them look like children playing with toys. How? He whispered. How did they develop such weapons without us knowing? Commander Hyjin had been thinking the same thing. Admiral, what if our intelligence was wrong from the beginning? What if the humans we observed were not their military forces? What do you mean? What if what we saw were just their civilian ships? What if their real military was hidden, waiting for someone to threaten them? Jaewook stared at the tactical display. Only 30 ships remained out of his mighty fleet. 30 ships out of 200 destroyed in less than 4 minutes by a single enemy vessel. Impossible, he said again, but the word had no meaning anymore. The Vengeance fired one more weapon, something the crew called the Cascade Cannon. A beam of pure destruction swept across the remaining Kreth ships, and 20 more vessels simply ceased to exist. Now only 10 ships remained, floating helplessly in space around the human vessel. Captain Minho's voice came over the communication. System 1 final time. Admiral Jaewook, your fleet is finished. 10 ships survive out of 200. This battle has lasted exactly 4 minutes. Do you wish to continue, or will you finally listen to reason? Admiral Jaewook stared at the tactical display showing only 10 ships left from his mighty fleet. His hands shook as he gripped the arms of his command chair. The Eternal Dominion had been damaged by debris from destroyed vessels, but it was, still, the most powerful ship in what remained of his force. All ships, he said into his communicator, form up on my position. We make our final stand here. The 10 surviving Kreth vessels moved closer together. Each captain knew they were probably going to die, but they were warriors of the Empire. They would not surrender to aliens, no matter how advanced their technology. Commander Hyjin looked at the sensor readings one more time. Admiral, that human ship has not even been damaged. Our weapons cannot penetrate whatever defenses they have. Then we will ram them, Jaewook declared. If we cannot destroy them with our guns, we will use our ships as weapons. The Eternal Dominion masses over 5 million tons. No ship can survive a direct collision at full speed. Lieutenant Burrow checked her calculations. Admiral, even if we hit them, the impact will destroy us too. Everyone on this ship will die. Better to die as warriors than to live as slaves, Jaewook replied. Besides, maybe our sacrifice will teach other species not to underestimate the Kreth Empire. On the bridge of the Vengeance, Captain Minho was monitoring the enemy ships. He could see them forming up for one final attack. They are not going to surrender, observed Weapons Officer Hyun-soo. No, Minho agreed. They would rather die fighting than admit defeat. I can respect that, even if they are our enemies. Should we end this quickly? Asked pilot Sang Dashwu. Minho was quiet for a moment. No, let them make their attempt. They have fought bravely, even if they fight for the wrong cause. They deserve the chance to die as warriors. Engineer Dup from her station. Captain, they are charging their engines to maximum power. I think they plan to ram us. Understood? All stations prepare for evasive action if needed. The 10 Creth ships began to accelerate toward the Vengeance. The Eternal Dominion led the charge, its massive bulk aimed directly at the human vessel. Behind it came the other survivors, 3 cruisers, 4 destroyers, and 2 escort frigates. 4. The Empire. Admiral Jaewook shouted as his ship gained speed. The distance between the fleets closed rapidly. The Creth ships fired everything they had as they approached, filling space with energy beams and missiles. But just like before, their weapons could not penetrate the Vengeance's defenses. Captain Minho watched calmly as the enemy ships rushed toward him. Sangwoo, take us into their formation, let them see what they are truly fighting. The Vengeance suddenly accelerated and disappeared from normal space. When it reappeared, it was flying alongside the charging Creth vessels. Matching their speed perfectly, Admiral Jaewook could see the human ship through the windows of his bridge. It was so close he could have reached out and touched it if the vacuum of space had not been between them. How are they doing that? He whispered. The Vengeance began to move between the Creth ships like a dancer, weaving through their formation without touching any of them. It was showing off, demonstrating a level of control and precision that was almost beyond belief. They are playing with us, Haijin said quietly. This is not a battle to them. It is a demonstration. Captain Minho spoke over the communication channel. Admiral Jaewook, your courage is impressive. But courage alone cannot win this fight. Order your ships to stand down, and no more of your people need to die. Never. Jaewook screamed back. The Creth Empire bows to no one. So be it. Minho replied sadly. The Vengeance suddenly stopped moving alongside the Creth ships and took position directly in their path. It was going to let them ram it. Full power to all systems, Jaewook ordered. We will crush them. The Eternal Dominion and the other ships continued their charge. They were seconds away from impact when Captain Minho finally revealed the Vengeance's true power. Yin, he said calmly. Activate the eraser. Eraser online, the engineer replied. Reality anchor engaged. Dimensional shields at maximum. The Vengeance began to glow with a strange light that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Space around the ship started to change, becoming something that was not quite normal matter and not quite energy. What is that? Biora gasped from her station on the Creth flagship before anyone could answer. The collision happened. The Eternal Dominion struck the Vengeance at full speed. Its 5 million tons of mass hitting the much smaller human ship with the force of a nuclear explosion. The other Creth vessels followed, crashing into the same point in space, but instead of being destroyed, something impossible occurred. The Vengeance absorbed the impact completely. The Creth ship struck what felt like an immovable wall and simply stopped. The Eternal Dominion's bow crumpled like paper, its hull buckling under forces it was never designed to withstand. Impossible, Jaewook whispered as alarms rang throughout his ship. Nothing can absorb that much kinetic energy. The human ship is undamaged, Bo'o reported in a voice filled with shock. Our collision did nothing to them at all. Captain Minho's voice came over the communication system. The eraser is not just a weapon, Admiral. It is a complete reality manipulation system. Your ships just tried to ram a vessel that exists partially outside normal spacetime. You might as well have tried to crash into a mathematical equation. The Vengeance began to move again, pushing the crippled Creth ships away from it like a parent moving children aside. Admiral, Haijin said urgently. Hull breaches on decks 7 through 15. We are losing atmosphere. Engineering reports that our main engines are offline? Jaewook looked around his bridge. Half of his crew were injured or unconscious. Emergency lights flashed red, and the sound of air leaking into space could be heard through the walls. Damage. Report from all ships, he ordered. The reports came in quickly. Every vessel in his fleet was crippled. Some were losing air. Others had lost power completely. 2 of the destroyers were breaking apart and would explode soon. We cannot fight anymore, Hyjin said quietly. Admiral, we must surrender. No, Jae-wook said firmly. I will not be the first Kreth admiral to surrender to aliens. Then you will be the first Kreth admiral to kill his own crew through pride, Hyjin replied. Jae-wook looked at her in surprise. His second-in-command had never spoken to him like that before. Sir, she continued, look around you. Our ships are dying, our people are dying. For what, so you can say you never surrendered? On the other ships, similar conversations were happening. Captain Yuna of the cruiser Stormbringer was already preparing life pods for her crew. Captain Seok-jin of the destroyer Nighthammer was trying to stop his ship from exploding. The Vengeance moved to a position where all the surviving Kreth vessels could see it clearly. Captain Minho opened a communication channel to all of them. Kreth. Commanders, he said, your ships are finished. Your people are dying. You have fought with honor, but the battle is over. Evacuate your crews to life pods and emergency shuttles. We will not fire on non-combatant vessels. Why? Admiral Jae-wook asked. Why spare us? We came to conquer your people. Because that is what civilized beings do, Minho replied. We do not kill unnecessarily, even our enemies. Jae-wook was quiet for a long moment. Around him, his bridge crew waited for his decision. Emergency lights continued to flash, and the sound of damage control teams could be heard in the corridors. Finally, he spoke. All ships, abandon vessel. Repeat, all ships, abandon vessel. This is Admiral Jae-wook ordering the evacuation of the 7th Fleet. It was the hardest order he had ever given. But as he watched his people begin to abandon their dying ships, he realized it was also the right one. The battle was over. The Kreth Empire's mightiest fleet had been destroyed in less than 4 minutes by a single human vessel, but the real shock was yet to come. Captain Minho watched from the bridge of the Vengeance as escape pods and shuttles launched from the dying Kreth ships. Hundreds of small craft filled the space around them, carrying the survivors of what had once been the galaxy's most feared fleet. All enemy life pods are clear, reported Communications Officer Ji-hoon. No casualties among the evacuees. Good, Minho said. Sang-woo, bring us alongside the largest group of survivors. I want to speak with their admiral. Pilot Sang-woo maneuvered the Vengeance close to a cluster of escape pods. Through the transparent aluminum windows, they could see Kreth officers and crew members inside, their blue faces pressed against the glass as they stared at the human ship. Open a channel to Admiral Jae-wook's pod? Minho ordered. The main screen showed the interior of a cramped escape pod. Admiral Jae-wook sat inside with several of his senior officers, including Commander Hyjin and Lieutenant Bo Ra. They looked defeated and confused, like people who had just watched their entire world change. Admiral, Minho said respectfully, are you and your people unharmed? Jae-wook stared at the human captain for a long moment. Why do you care? We are your enemies. We came to conquer your species. You are people, Minho replied simply. That is enough. I do not understand you humans, Jae-wook said. We have ruled this galaxy for 3,000 years through strength and fear. You could have killed us all. Why show mercy? Minho was quiet for a moment, choosing his words carefully. Admiral, your people believe that power comes from the ability to destroy, but true power comes from the choice not to destroy when you easily could. Commander Hyjin leaned forward in the cramped pod. Captain, I must ask, how did you develop such weapons? Our intelligence reports said humans were primitive. Your intelligence was not wrong, Minho answered. The ships and technology you observed were our civilian vessels. What you saw was humanity at peace, not humanity at war. Then what is this ship? Bo Ra asked, fear still clear in her voice. The Vengeance is one of humanity's guardian vessels, Minho explained. We have been watching the galaxy for a long time, Admiral. We have seen how your empire treats other species. We have been preparing for the day when you would come for us. Engineer Dayun looked up from her station. Captain, we are receiving priority communications from Earth Command. Put them through, Minho ordered. A new voice joined the conversation, speaking in the common galactic language so the Kreth could understand. This is Admiral Young-Soo of Earth Defense Command. Captain Minho, report your status. Mission successful, Admiral. The Kreth 7th Fleet has been neutralized. Survivors are secure in life pods. Excellent work, Captain. Phase 2 is now complete. All Guardian ships report similar success across their assigned sectors. Admiral Jaewook's eyes widened. All Guardian ships? How many vessels like yours do you have? Admiral Young-Soo answered him directly. Enough, Admiral Jaewook, more than enough. But this is impossible, Jaewook protested. How could you build such a fleet without us knowing? We have spies throughout the galaxy. You have spies among the species you have conquered, Young-Soo corrected. But humanity has never been conquered. We have been free to develop our technology and prepare our defenses without interference. Captain Minho gestured toward the wreckage floating around them. Admiral, your empire controlled this galaxy because no one could match your military power. Today that changed. Humanity is not interested in ruling others, but we will protect ourselves and our allies. Allies? Haijin asked. The Zilani traders you enslaved 50 years ago, Minho said. The Korath scientists your empire scattered across the galaxy? The Thren farmers whose worlds you strip-mined for resources? They have all been in contact with humanity for decades. Admiral Young-Soo's voice continued the explanation. Your victims became our friends, Admiral Jaewook. They told us about Kreth expansion plans. They warned us when your scouts entered our space. They helped us prepare for this day. Impossible, Jaewook whispered. The Empire controls all communication networks. The Empire controls the networks you know about, Minho said. But there are others. Hidden frequencies, quantum entanglement communicators, dimensional message systems. Your oppressed subjects have been talking to each other for years, and they have been talking to us. Lieutenant Biora was staring at her portable scanner. Admiral, I am detecting similar energy signatures throughout this system. There are more human ships here, aren't there? Show them, Minho said to his pilot. Sang-woo activated the Vengeance's sensor array and transmitted the data to the Kreth escape pods. Suddenly, the survivors could see what had been hidden from them before. The Sol system was filled with human ships. Not just a few vessels, but hundreds of them. Each one radiated the same impossible energy signature as the Vengeance. They had been there all along, cloaked and waiting. A trap, Jaewook said quietly. This whole thing was a trap. Not a trap, Minho corrected. A test. We needed to know how your empire would react to meeting a new species. Would you try diplomacy first, or would you immediately resort to violence? You already knew the answer, Haijin said. Yes, Minho admitted, but we had to be certain. We had to give you every chance to choose peace. Admiral Young-Soo's voice became more formal. Admiral Jaewook, I am now transmitting a message to every world in the Kreth Empire. Every species under your control will hear these words. The communication channel expanded, becoming a galaxy-wide broadcast. Every planet, every ship, every communication device in Kreth space would receive this message. People of the galaxy, Admiral Young-Soo began. For 3,000 years, the Kreth Empire has ruled through fear and violence. They have enslaved species, destroyed worlds, and crushed anyone who opposed them. Today, that age ends. The message continued, carried by communication networks the Kreth had never known existed. Humanity does not seek to replace the Kreth Empire with our own rule. We do not want to control other species or conquer their worlds. We want only to be left in peace, and to ensure that others can live in peace as well. This cannot be happening, Jaewook said, but he could see the truth in his portable communicator. The message was reaching every corner of Kreth space. From this day forward, Young Su continued, any species that attacks civilian populations, enslaves other beings, or commits acts of genocide will face the combined power of humanity and our allies. We have the technology to stop you. We have the ships to defeat you, and we have the will to protect the innocent. Captain Minho looked directly at Admiral Jae-wook through the communication link. Your empire is finished, Admiral. Not destroyed, but changed. The age of ruling through fear is over. What happens to us now? Jae-wook asked quietly. That depends on you, Minho replied. You can try to rebuild your empire and continue your old ways. If you do, you will face not just one human ship, but dozens of them. Or you can accept that the galaxy has changed and find a new path forward. What kind of path? Haijin asked. Trade instead of conquest, Minho suggested. Cooperation instead of domination. Alliance instead of empire. Admiral Young Su added his voice to the conversation. The choice is yours, people of the Kreth. Empire, but choose wisely. Humanity is watching, and we will not allow the old ways to continue. The message ended, leaving the escape pods floating in silence among the wreckage of the 7th Fleet. How long have you been planning this? Jae-wook asked finally. Ever since we learned about your empire, Minho answered. Humanity has been preparing. For over 200 years, Admiral. We knew this day would come eventually. Lieutenant Ba'ora looked at her scanner again. Captain, are you really going to let us go? Of course, Minho said. We will escort your life pods to the nearest Kreth world. You are not prisoners. You are survivors of a battle that should never have been fought. And if we try to attack, you again? Jae-wook asked. Captain Minho smiled, but it was not a threatening smile. It was sad, like someone who hoped he would never have to fight again but knew he probably would. Then you will meet more ships like the Vengeance, he said simply, and next time we might not be so merciful. The escape pods were loaded aboard human rescue ships and taken to safety. The wreckage of the Kreth 7th Fleet was left floating in space as a reminder of what had happened. Across the galaxy, the message was received by billions of beings. Some celebrated their freedom from Kreth oppression. Others prepared for the chaos that would follow the Empire's fall. A few began planning resistance against the new human protectors, but one thing was certain. The galaxy had changed forever. In just 4 minutes of battle, the age of the Kreth Empire was over, the age of humanity had begun.